When the first blow hits, the typical reaction is shock. When the second blow hits, survival kicks in. But nowhere in the manual of being beaten to a pulp does an instinct kick in to roll tape. That is unless you are Mayor Marnie Sawicki of Cape Coral, Florida. Because when her ex-husband was trashing her and thrashing her around a Miami hotel room with her teenage son on the other side of the door, she somehow had the wherewithal to hit record on her phone.
You. I don't need you. You ruined my life.
Oh, stupid. Hit me.
You ruined my life. Because you're so wrapped up in your own shit.
Hit me.
Hit me again.
Don't hit me.
Do it again. Do it again.
You've already hit me enough.
I didn't hit you. Look at my face.
You've hit me enough.
Look at my face.
You've hit me enough.
Look at my face. Who hit who?
Leave me alone.
Take your shit, you whore. Took it all your other trips. Here's your Michael Kors shoes from your pimp.
Leave me alone.
Your pimp. Here's more pimp shoes. Whore.
Oh,
Pimp.
leave me alone.
Pimp.
Leave me alone. Leave me alone.
Pimp.
Leave me alone.
Whore.
You leave me
Pimp.
my kids right now. My kids.
Well, then maybe you shouldn't have done this to me. You called my kid a f***ing asshole one time. You don't ever call my kid a f***ing asshole. You understand me? You don't call my kid a f***ing asshole.
Oh my God.
Your girl's into f***ing cocaine and every other thing.
Oh.
Marnie Sawicki was in Miami for the U.S. Conference of Mayors because she was a mayor. And she brought the family along. And that recording was a big part of her husband's conviction on domestic battery by strangulation. So were the pictures in which both Marnie and her husband, Kenneth Retzer, show injuries. Court records show that Marnie fought back during the attack, causing her husband to look like this at his sentencing, though. That was a different picture. Both Marnie and her son addressed the courtroom.
What I heard that night was just a monster. What he did was just unforgivable.
My children and I will never be able to forget that night, Kenny, where you once again called me horrific names, lunged at me, strangled me, and beat my head with your fist.
In the end, Kenneth Retzer did not go to jail. He was instead sentenced to 1 year house arrest and 3 years probation. He's going to have to wear a GPS monitor for that 1 year and cannot come within 500 feet of Marnie or her children. When the case wrapped up, Marnie said she wanted to dedicate much of her time to advocating for domestic violence victims. And that's why she's now live here with me tonight for this exclusive interview. Marnie, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. My first question, and I'm going to get to all the meat of this case and the mission. How did you get your phone and hit record during that beating?
You know, I think it's one of those things that went as a victim, fight or flight, you're not really, you know, I had started to record 6 months prior, our arguments, and it was really just for my own, trying to get out of the relationship. And so I think that's part of it. I just ended up, I had been doing it for a while, and I just hit record.
This, where you started your tape, wasn't even the beginning of the beating.
No.
Help me understand. This was, I think, a 45-minute long beating?
Yes, yes.
And how long into it did you finally get the phone and hit record?
I 45 minutes through. I don't remember if I had it. I don't remember if it was in my hand the whole time. And then after, if you listen to the entire video, I don't even remember recording it and saying, I'm asking my son, where's my phone? And I tell the police, you know, get my son. He recorded it. And
that son was in the adjoining hotel room.
Yes.
18 years old.
Yes.
His door is unlocked, but as we all know, adjoining hotel rooms have 2 doors, and yours is locked. He can't get to you.
Correct.
He can't do anything to save you. He can hear everything.
Yes.
What was he doing? What was he saying? What was he thinking?
You know, and it's evident in the text between him and his sister that he was scared. You know, he's writing, Madison, please come home. Please get back to the hotel. Ken's hitting Mom. You know, I don't know. I'm not equipped to handle this. You know, I can't imagine what was going through his head. And he's a quiet boy, so and not until he banged on the door did Ken leave.
So at one point, I'm going to play a little bit more of this tape that you recorded, because there was a lot of it. Yeah. I mean, a lot. At one point, he's demanding the ring that he gave you, your engagement ring. And the language that he's using, I mean, we've seen some of it in the original tape, but he knows that your son is there at the door. Your son is banging on the door. He knows your son is there. Yeah. And this is what's going on. Have a look.
Give me your ring.
Get out of my room.
Give me
before
your ring.
I hit you in the face, okay?
Do it. I dare you.
You've hit me enough.
I haven't hit you nothing. I dare you. Do me everything you got, bitch. Give me everything you got.
Get out of
Get everything. Give me everything you got.
Get out of my
You know why? Because that's the kind of shit you did with a whore. You whore.
I hope you and the kids are in intensive counseling after this. There's another aspect to this story that is, I think, disturbing to many, frustrating to some, and that is the internet and the victim shaming that's gone on since this. And there is a sort of a whole sordid history between you and Ken. And let's be real clear, it doesn't matter what you said to each other, what you did to each other in your romantic life. Nobody gets beaten like that and gets away with it. Nobody deserves it. You didn't have it coming. Let's just put it right on the table. A woman doesn't have it coming, and you can read whatever you want on the internet. But it is interesting to see your relationship. And this is where I have to ask you a tough question. He was your ex-husband in that hotel room. You had been through a volatile relationship with him, on again, off again, beatings that you say had happened in the past, an order of protection that you had sought, and you had finalized and left him. Why did you accept him back into your life, especially at that hotel with your children there?
Yeah, and that goes to the cycle of abuse. And it's one of those questions that I don't, you know, therapy, as you mentioned, is where that I'm now learning crazy making and, you know, gaslighting and what those terms mean. But it's a cycle, and they honeymoon, and they, you know, tell you what you want to hear to bring you back.
You during your honeymoon?
Yeah.
So ultimately,
a lot of those injuries, he was hitting himself in the face and punching himself.
But you had also bitten his finger terribly. I think there's a terrible injury to his finger prior to much of that horrible beating that you endured as well. So the next big question is, he left the hotel room and then returned several hours later to continue this assault.
Yes.
Why didn't you call the police right then and there?
I don't remember any of that.
Because he did. He came back and he called the police.
He did.
But you never called the police to say, I nearly lost my life. This man just strangled me, and I'm, you know, black and blue.
If you see and hear my kids talk, you'll hear them. They'll tell you that I looked out of sort and disoriented and shocked, and I just cried and sat on the bed and said I'm sorry to them over and over and over.
Your two adult children didn't call the police either. Why not?
My son, at that point, after he banged on the door, Ken left. My daughter was returning to the hotel as quick as she could, and he had said, you know, I'll find your own way home, and I didn't, you know, think he'd come back. And my daughter's like, he's coming back, and I said, and it's embarrassing. I mean, I'm at a mayor's conference. 250 of my fellow
you're one
mayors.
Of them. Real quickly, he's got a GPS monitoring for 1 year. And then what?
3 years probation.
But what about for you?
Yeah.
After 1 year of GPS monitoring, what about you?
Yeah, there's... and in fact, the GPS, nobody's asked me my address or where I work.
So if he comes near your home or your kids' homes...
I don't know how that goes off. Because
GPS doesn't have that registered yet.
No, it does not.
Yeah, it seems like the system's missing a few links.
It's broken. It is broken.
Marnie, thanks for sharing your story. And, you know, I'm so sorry that you've had to go through this. And I think the fact that you're a mayor has put it in the spotlight.
Yeah,
and then if you continue to put it in the spotlight, it shows that it does. This kind of thing happens across all socioeconomic
Yes, it
strata.
does.
It happens everywhere. But I think going back,
there are CEOs.
going back, would
yeah.
you now looking back, you cut those ties and you don't go back.
You've got to have the courage, though, to do that.
I hear you.
And, you know, that's the tough part, and that's the part we need to work on.
Madam Mayor, thanks for being here. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Good
Thank
luck
you.
with your mission,
Thank you.
you know, to spread the word about domestic violence. It's a
Yes.
mission that
Thank
is
you for having me.
laudable, and it is a message that needs to be spread. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.